Welcome to Making Money with Laura Sanders, a name you can trust. With over 20 years of real estate experience and selling over 150 homes a year, Laura Sanders is the #1 RE/MAX agent in the state of Florida for 2021. Join us each week as we discuss how to make money through buying and flipping homes to renting versus selling and everything in between. To join the conversation, call in live. 888-994-4995, Studio A.
Hi, and welcome to Making Money with Laura Sanders, and I am your host, Laura Sanders. So every week we talk about something that helps you to make some money or save some money some way or somehow in real estate. I've been doing real estate for over 20-something years. I've been doing investment properties. I can't even tell you all the different things that I'm doing or have done and plan on doing. So, I know a lot of people always ask, what do you do and how do you do it and how can I do the same thing? So today we're going to talk about real estate, what's going on in the real estate market, and what makes me a little bit different than everyone else. So today we have Dawn with us and we're going to talk about real estate.
All right, so what makes you a little different than everybody else? This is what I love so much about you, is your niche that you don't talk enough about. You interview everybody, but we don't hear enough about you.
Yeah, let's go back 20-something years ago. I don't know everybody knows like how my story started or who I am or when it started, right? I'm a couple of years old. I'm a couple of years old, and so I started my life out to was like maybe a school teacher or maybe a therapist. Well, I ended up becoming a therapist, and I'm not talking about a massage therapist, you know, definitely no happy endings here. So I ended up becoming a licensed mental health counselor. So I'm a psychotherapist. So I worked for a nonprofit organization. I worked for Henderson Mental Health Center, and that used to be Henderson Mental Health Clinic. It's been around since like early, 1940s, 50s, something like that. It's been around for a really long time. Anyway, so it's a nonprofit organization, and after getting a master's degree, they offered me $26,000 a year.
I remember that as a teacher, yep.
So is that what you did for a living?
I was a special ed teacher.
Yes.
With the master's, I made 24.
Yeah, I cried and cried. I worked in the nightclub business when I was younger, and cash money take home working at one of the hottest nightclubs of all time, Baja Beach Club, when I was half the size of what I am today.
Wow.
Making somewhere in the neighborhood of $70,000 to $100,000 cash money, bringing it home in the late 1990s. So in the 1990s, I was making a lot of money, cash money. You know, my mortgage was $192 a month.
Oh God.
Yes, my maintenance was $179. So I had a roommate charging them like $350 a month, and it was like I had to pay like electric, and we had cell phones. I mean, I have to tell you, my cell phone bill sometimes would be more than my mortgage and my maintenance together. You know, when you're young and you're chasing the boys, like you could get a $500 cell phone bill back in the day real easy by $1 a minute.
That's true.
Right? You're just waiting for them to call you back, and the next thing you don't want to hang up on them. They're like, you waited all day for them to call, so you're just gonna do what you have to do. You're gonna stay on that cell phone, right? So I know, and you tell your kids about that. Oh, it was $1 a minute, and it's like now you can get a cell phone for like what, $20 a month?
When did you make the transition from Baja mental health counselor?
Well, I finished my master's degree while I was working at Baja. I, started my job, and I started bartending at a restaurant, Brews Room. A lot of people know. Started bartending at Brews Room because I was kind of had to get out of the thong. Hey, listen, this is a true story. Like,
as we age, right? It is what it is.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I don't even know if people even wear thongs anymore. I don't even know. So, I had to kind of go to something, now that I'm working, as a therapist, and I'm working with children. Now, I was a substitute teacher while I was getting my master's, and they used to say, Miss, I heard you were a stripper. I'm like, I'm not a stripper. I would hear that all the time. Miss, I heard you were. And I was like, okay, that's not going over too well. So anyway, I substitute taught because I was like, you can't put Baja Beach Club on your resume. It doesn't look good. So I substitute teaching. I did it for a lot of I was in honors classes in high school, so I did a lot for those teachers. The kids were not great to work, substitute for back then. I can't even imagine what it's like today. So anyway, fast forward, I graduate, I'm bartending, I'm working as a therapist, and while I was working at Baja, I met these guys and their wives, and they were like, hey, you want to buy investment property? I'm like, sure.
You were only in your 20s.
I had bought my first 2 properties by the time I was 23 years old. I bought my first property when I was 20.
Now, that's the thing that people don't realize, because in their 20s now, kids can't even afford to get their own apartment.
Yeah, it's expensive.
But you were able to do this in your 20s.
Yes.
Is there a key? Do you still encourage? You've got young kids to do this.
Yeah. So, it's kind of funny. Like, I think I don't think it has anything to do with how you're brought up. That I could tell you. Like, I could tell you that, like, my parents never instilled working in me. They never instilled to save money. Like, it was never a thing. Like, I think it's just your own drive, right? What you want. I can say that I had an interesting childhood. I will say that. And I think I always went to work because I wanted to be out of the house. So I'm what you call like a worker, like go work, work, work. I do attribute that when people ask other people that have worked for me, what does Laura do? Tell us what Laura does. And they just look at you and they go, I can't tell you other than that she works.
It's your work ethic.
It's a work ethic. And I'm Jewish by whatever you want to say, like by default, like however that works, right? And so, but I believe in that God provides for you by, if you work, it shall come. So I just believe that if you do the right things by others, that will come back to you.
Put it out in the universe, right?
Right.
You do good, and you always do. You're
Yeah.
always
Things
you're
go
always
wrong.
giving gifts. I mean, I've seen you in here, and guests come in like Max. You bought a gift for the baby.
Yeah.
Somebody else's birthday, you bring them a gift. You're always
Yeah.
giving. You're always giving back to your clients.
Yeah, I like to. I actually was in a store today and I had all this stuff and the lady's like, are you a school teacher? I'm like, no, I'm a realtor. She's like, and I go, I just like to send like arbitrary gifts out to people just to say, hey. And the funny thing is like you're right. Like I gave Max a gift, right? He's got 20,000 real, like I'm not getting anything back for that. I do that because I want to do that. Yeah. I'm not doing it to get something in return. So a lot of other realtors that know me know that I've given them gifts, right? What am I getting from that? I've never done a deal with them. Like, to me, it's you treat others as how you would like to be treated yourself.
What led you from the investment property side to becoming a realtor, to actually doing this for a business and helping others?
So funny story is it's, you know how you have like certain things in your life that you just never forget? So one day I'm actually at Brews Room and it's a Sunday morning and they have us doing bar cleanup. And I get a call from one of these tenants, which was in a really interesting neighborhood. And I was like, I just can't anymore. So I called up my realtor and said to him, hey, I need to sell this property. Like, I need it to be gone. I just don't want it anymore. And I realized there were some other properties that I was like, oh, it's time to like flip them. And then when I sold that property, I was able to do a 1031 exchange, which that's something that we could talk about in another.
Well, what is a 1031 exchange?
So 1031 exchange is related to investment property. It has nothing to do with your primary, which your primary is like a whole nother thing. So let's just say that you have a property like a rental and you've owned it and now it's got $100,000 in equity. You don't want to pay taxes on that, right? So what you want to do is you want to roll that property into another property. You can't roll it into your primary. You have to roll it into another investment. But as long as you've owned that property for more than a year, you can go ahead and 1031 exchange it into another property. And then that way, all your tax liability. So
does it have to be the same? Say I owned a nail salon and I sold it. Do I have to buy another nail salon?
No. Mm-mm. So, and some other things that people don't understand is, so let's say you sell the nail salon for $100,000, right? And you bought it for 50, now you're making 50,000 in profit. First thing is you have to own it for a year. Now that's a business, but really it's more related to, but that's still a tax liability. So yes, you could roll that into another investment. But let's use
like a building.
But yeah, let's use it like that you bought a duplex, right?
Okay.
And you've owned the duplex for 5 years and you sell the duplex and you bought it for 100, but now you're selling it for 200. There's $100,000 in profit. Now, there might not necessarily be $100,000 because you got to pay the realtors, you got to pay your closing costs. Let's say you put a new roof on, right? All that stuff is going to be deducted off of your capital gains. Now, I'm not an accountant, nor do I pretend to be one. So there are times and places that you need to talk to your accountant. But the basics of a 1031 exchange is basically you're going to go buy another property or properties that equal to that $200,000.
So this can be done even if it's not a business. It can be an investment property such as a duplex.
Right. Or a single family home that you bought.
Which is residential. It doesn't have to be commercial.
Correct.
It's just an investment property.
And it could be commercial. You could take the residential home and put it into commercial properties.
Interesting.
So for instance, like I had bought a house in 1999. I bought a house in 1999 and I decided to sell it. I was like, okay, I'm kind of done. I want to move away from that area and I wanted to move to a different area. And so I took the proceeds that I had made off that house and put it into another house and bought a little bit more of an expensive house. And now I'm renting that because that house gets more rent because it's in a different area.
All different ways to make money, which
Correct.
is why.
Now, that's why I say, if you give me a call, I can teach you how to make some money and I can teach you how to sometimes, and again, this is an accountant question, but sometimes you have where you've done you've taken out too much, and I forget what they call that, but it's like where you've basically ran the gamut with that property, and that could happen in like 15, 20 years. So when we come back from commercial, because we're going to get ready to go to commercial, when we do come back from commercial, we could talk about, when it makes sense for you to do a 1031 exchange. So again, stay tuned. We're going to have our sponsors, Max Fish and Title Brothers, so stay tuned and we'll be right back.
Whether you're buying, selling, refinancing, or building your dream home, you have a lot riding on your loan specialist. Max Fish, a top 1% mortgage loan officer in the nation, will give you a same-day qualifying quote. Max Fish is committed to providing his customers with mortgage services that exceed their expectations. Ensuring that you make the right choice for you and your family is his ultimate goal. Contact Max Fish today at 954-729-6933 or max.fisch@nwmcorp.net.
At Title Brothers LLC, our mission is to give you the best closing experience anywhere in the country. Founded in 2020 by Adam Lohman and Josh Wiseman, here at Title Brothers, we're your one-stop shop for residential real estate, title insurance, title and escrow services, real estate closing, and due diligence services. While primarily located in South Florida, we also host dozens of closings throughout the state and even electronically as requested. To contact the Title Brothers, call us at 954-995-4988 or visit our website and get a quick quote today.
You have been watching Making Money with Laura. For more information, contact Laura Sanders at 954-650-0827 or visit her website at theloracell.com. And now back to the show.
Hi, and welcome back to Making Money with Laura Sanders, and I am your host, Laura Sanders. So we're talking about who the heck am I? Where did I come from?
Where'd you come from?
What am I doing? And why am I doing it? And we were also talking about 1031 exchanges, and a lot of people don't realize that when you're investing in real estate, that there is a way to get around paying taxes. I mean, you'll eventually have to pay them, but maybe you can leave it to your family and they'll never have to pay taxes. That's another thing that, a lot of people don't realize is that one thing you should never do, if let's say you wanted to give your house to your son, it doesn't make sense for you to give your house to your son. I know a lot of older people are like, hey, let me just give you my house. What you're better off doing is putting it in a ladybird deed and letting them inherit your house.
Well, you talked about that a little bit last week. You want to go back again what the ladybird deed is?
Yeah, so not every state has a ladybird deed.
But Florida does.
Florida does. One of the things that I love about the ladybird deed was it actually can help you sometimes circumvent probate. A lot of people are under some misconceptions, as am I was, and I think it's very complex. So I always thought if you have a will, you wouldn't go to probate.
Right.
That's wrong.
Really? Mm-hmm. So if you have a will and your house is in it?
So so first of all, your house should be in a trust.
Okay.
Okay? That's first and foremost. But your primary is never a big deal. You still have to go to probate if it's not in a trust. Again, I'm not a lawyer. I know only the basics. But if your house is in your will and you're leaving it to people, they're still going to have to do some sort of probate. I don't know exactly how that all goes, but I will tell you of a situation recently where I had a client, and I guarantee realtors, none of you really would have thought of this, because I only did it because I think I just talk with some of the smartest attorneys that just, you get in enough of these conversations and you start to say to yourself, hey, my client just called me. He said his dad just ended up back in the hospital. I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute, is this his primary? Because if it's your homestead, right, there is a possibility that you don't have to do probate and you can just do a summary judgment. Like it's called a summary, I think it's called a summary judgment. So he said, no, this was like his second home. I was like, okay, that's not good, because they had a home in Connecticut. I said to him, well, if your dad dies while we're in the middle of this deal, it's gonna have to go to probate. And probate is gonna take a significant, it could take 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 weeks. You can close and put your money in an escrow account, but you really don't want to go to probate. And there is other things with probate that you have to take into consideration, like percentages that have to be paid to an attorney.
Well, if you do a ladybird deed, can it be on a primary residence or only?
You can do it on both.
A second, you can do a
but
ladybird?
On a primary, it doesn't always need to be that situation. So you have to look at everybody by a case-by-case basis, right? Let's say your mom only has $10,000 in a bank account, right? And they own their primary residence. The first and foremost, and again, I'm not an attorney, I'm not giving legal advice, I'm just telling you like basic stuff that like, hey, your mom should have your name as in trust for or paid on death to you, right? So if it's paid on death to you, you can't do anything with her account. It's just paid on death to you. So that's one less thing you have to worry about in probate.
That's something that people don't realize. If you have a POD on your investment accounts or your mom or dad's investment accounts.
Or just your bank account.
But people don't even realize, like, there's always tenants by entireties, there's all kinds of things.
That's
but
a whole
the
nother
POD,
thing, yeah.
No one realizes that when someone passes, you can't even get into that bank account without a POD.
Right.
Unless your name is on the account, of course.
Right. And so that's what I'm saying. So like, that's when you have to do probate. So imagine if you have $5,000 in account, it's not paid on death. It's like, that's a little bit of money for a whole lot of expense to get that money. Sometimes it doesn't even make sense to do probate for somebody.
Right, for that small amount of money.
Right. So, so with that being said, in this particular instance, let's go back. In this particular instance, I said to him, listen, you need to put somebody, or you could put all the kids on the ladybird deed. And the great thing about the ladybird deed is it's still an inheritance. So you don't have to pay tax on it.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. Like, I think you have to inherit like, I don't think it's like $10 million, some crazy number before you have to pay taxes on inheritance. Like, again, I'm not an accountant, I'm not a lawyer. I'm just giving you guys like just basic information.
You've got so much information, and I know we're running out of time already.
Yeah.
Buyer's or seller's market right now?
It's both. It just really depends on what you have, but I will tell you this. The market has continued to increase in price in the last year, which actually is mind-blowing to me, which really just proves a point. Like, first of all, you shouldn't buy a house unless you can afford it anyway. And if you're sitting here going to wait around and stand over there and say, I'm just going to wait till interest rates go down, well, you're going to stand there and wait for a long time. I can only guarantee you one thing in life, that in 10 years from now, today, when you look back on buying your house, unless you bought one that's going to like sink into the ground, you're going to sit there and say to yourself, I'm glad that I pulled the Band-Aid off and I did it and I bought it, because waiting isn't the answer.
Are you seeing a difference now? The interest rates went up again. Are people buying the houses still for where they were, making no difference with the higher interest rate, or do you see prices kind of being stabilized or coming down a little bit?
It really depends. Some places, like, I'll give you an example. There was a house that I showed to a client, and we had gone the first day it was on the market, and I said to her, listen, I'm just telling you, like, this house is going to be gone quickly. And of course, she wanted to think about it a day or two. And of course, the house you saw today, somebody saw yesterday, or vice versa, right? or somebody's seen other houses and now they're finding the right one. And it's hard. You really want to make sure you're making a right decision. So of course, like a day and a half later, she's like, all right, well, why don't you call and see if they'll take a little bit less? And I'm like, okay. Texted the agent, hey, just wanted to follow up on, Johnson Street, whatever. And of course, like a few hours later, he texts back, oh no, we're already under contract. I said, thought you were. So of course I said, listen, they're already in contract. Now, fast forward like a week later, house comes back on the market. Now, she actually ended up getting the house now, but she had to pay a little bit more than the actual listing price. Just to let everybody know, I'm still doing the 0% mortgage, second mortgage, to help you to get your home ready to sell. Of course, you have to sell. It's not a mortgage just to have a mortgage.
And that's the other amazing thing that you do. Nobody does that. People may stage their homes. They may say, take the pictures off, but they don't fix it up.
I do that too, but yeah.
Right, you do that. But they don't put money in to fix it up to sell it. Why is that such a benefit, are you finding?
First of all, everybody buys a feeling. Everybody wants something special when they buy it, right? And the thing is that you're right, interest rates are over 6%, right? So it makes more sense to pay the 6% on the full amount and it be done than to go in and have to go back and do the work and take the cash out of your pocket.
Because people want turnkey.
They want turnkey. Everybody it's like, it's funny, it's like the white kitchen was in, the white kitchen's out,
right.
The white kitchen's back again. Everybody wants the white kitchen. You could actually watch that a dark kitchen will sit longer than a white kitchen will.
Interesting.
And a couple of years ago, an appraiser told me, oh yeah, we'll give a little bit more money for a white kitchen because it's the more To me, it's like people walk in and when they love it and everything's done, they're willing to do it. I just had a deal where everybody was fighting on the age of the roof and the impact windows that they did not have. And the kitchen was unbelievably amazing. So it's like you give them that, then it's like you give a mouse a cookie, now the mouse wants milk to go with the cookie. So everybody wants everything done. So
can you maybe just paint your cabinets white?
Yeah, you can.
You don't have to necessarily replace them.
No, and you can reface them. I have amazing guys to do the work for me. Even like just recently we replaced wallpaper out of, taking wallpaper down because people look at wallpaper and wallpaper's back in, but we're talking about like 1982 wallpaper, on the ceilings, behind the door, like every orifice has wallpaper. Anyway, so if you're thinking about buying or selling a home and you're looking for a top agent, give me a call at 954-650-0827, and we look forward to seeing you next week when we talk more about real estate and what we can do for you. So give Laura Sanders a call. Thanks and have a great night.
Thank you for tuning in for Making Money with Laura Sanders, a name you can trust. To join the conversation, call us at the studio, 888-994-4995 Studio A, or contact Laura directly at 954-650-0827. Laura Sanders, a name you can trust.